Hey guys, I apologize for last week's video quality. I thought going off script was going to be fine, but in retrospect, it was a terrible idea. Hence why the paced reading of my script is back. On top of that, I really wanted to get the first video out by Sunday, and I had already missed the deadline, as well as today, and was working my computer under heavy load again, which effectively locked my PC down for another few days. That, and I was in a lot of discomfort that week because I was sitting at a chair that I gradually learned was very uncomfortable to sit in for long periods of time. My current chair hurts my back to sit in, so I ended up stealing the chair from the guest bedroom. Now, instead of my back hurting, it was my butt. On top of that, I was hunched over my tablet on my desk because I don't actually have a very good desk at the moment, and part of my discomfort stemmed from the fact that I'd maintained that position for pretty much the entire 4 or 5 days of my art binge. It wasn't exactly the best idea, and I'll be trying to take it slow from now on. I'll try to pace myself going forward so I don't immediately burn out like that again. Now for the new model. I tried a lot of stuff and rolled back several saved versions of my design because, despite the fact that this was practice, I wanted to push myself to the best of my abilities. I also eventually learned a lot from going back and learning from my mistakes. I found out how fiddly baking normal maps can be, how I should configure my models carefully from now on, and I also learned how to block out the model in a way that makes sense to artists, but initially didn't to me. Like you saw at the beginning, at first I just tried to polymodel the whole thing from scratch, but that didn't work out. So I eventually just took cubes, subdivided them, and then shaped them into the general forms that I wanted them to take. I also learned a lot about packing the textures into the blend file, making it a self-contained file instead of referencing external images. And later I can unpack those textures to send to Unity, which would help a lot. In the end, I'm proud of what this model eventually became. While still a little rough, it became a decent quality model, and it's a far cry from where I started. I think what pushed me to keep trying, despite the physical pain and frustration, was the fact that this was a tribute to my favorite game ever. It felt wrong to half ass it, and even though I know at this stage it would never live up to the heights I wanted it to, at least not without more practice, it made more sense to soldier on and change what I knew what was wrong rather than leave it and shrug it off. It taught me how much of an uphill battle I'll be facing going forward, but now I'm prepared. It taught me having an art style like, well, Armored Core is not a good idea. The art style I have in mind, I think I have a good idea of what I want to do. Um, and quite frankly, despite the fact that I intended to make the whole model, this already took a long time, and I feel like I should move on if I want to get anything done in a reasonable amount of time, because this already isn't reasonable. But now that I have an art style in mind and I have at least some practice under my belt, I think I'm ready to start making the real deal. I guess not so much ready as much as I have a good idea of what I'm trying to do, and I want to put practice to said use to good use rather than extend this practice session by another month. So next week I'll start putting together ideas. They won't be as obviously intensely complicated as Armored Core, but I do tend to take some influence away. But in the meantime, if you have any other comments and suggestions, tips, critiques, please leave them down below. I'm especially going to be receptive to critiques and tips regarding the art and 3D modeling. As I said before, the entire idea of being an artist is new to me, so I have a lot to learn and absorb. Until then, talk to you next time. I'll close out on this final render of my 3D model.